Pretty sure I started it, yeah, I did. Okay, I think we will start the meeting at 4:05. This is a low chair, and it's not coming up.
Oh,
There we
they're such
go.
a pain, aren't they?
Good afternoon, all, and here's Howie.
Howie's
Hi.
here.
And we'll pull up another chair for Tim when he comes.
Tim's coming, yeah.
All right. Okay, just to welcome everybody. Deirdre's taking minutes today. And I did have there's just been a lot going on. Because summer is over, and so basically I wanted to make some announcements that have come through from the state, and then we'll just move on after we get through the announcements to committee reports.
Should we do the minutes right quick?
Yeah, why don't we do that, because I always forget that. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Okay.
I thought they were amazing.
I did too.
I did too.
I move we accept the minutes submitted.
I second.
All in favor?
So
Okay.
now do I send them to Tina now?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Mark them approved and send them to Tina.
Okay.
Great. Okay. There is a new Maine Office of Community Affairs. You may or may not have heard of it. At the state, it's an outgrowth of GOPIF. And I think Margaret where's Margaret? There she is. Margaret was rather excited when she heard about it because what it's doing is it's basically rolling in the Maine Coastal Program, which was handled through Marine Resources, the Maine Floodplain Program, Municipal Planning Assistance Program, and Housing Opportunity Programs. So those were all separate, I don't know that they were divisions, or they were areas of. And code enforcement.
Can you give me the list?
I'll give it to you.
Okay.
Oh, and also the Maine Uniform Building Code and Department of Education. And I think their focus is trying to bring about looking at everybody in Maine to be able to access services that are needed. And so it should be something that should be helpful to us, I think, as a town. As we won't have to look at 5 places to do something when you're trying to think about it. I think there's something about energy in there too, Howie, if I didn't mention it. Yes. But anyhow, I think I forget, it just was opened like the first of, probably yesterday. Yeah, so I just figured I'd let you all know about it. I can send more information if anybody wants it.
Just like the list.
You know,
Thank you.
I can send you links to look at stuff. There's also, that came across, thanks to Jay yesterday, you brought that to my attention, I think it was you. There's a new updated Community Action Plan booklet. I just put the link in. It's basically the original Climate Community Action Plan from GOPIF that came out 4 years ago was, EA thick. And they did an update, a 2-year update last year. And they issued this online version which incorporates it. It's a little trimmed down, but ideally, we should be able to use that to look for things in the various areas that we would be looking for. So I just figured I'd include that. And then it seems like it was a long time ago, but we did get the grant in that we talked about in the end of August. Well, yeah, the 4 days before it was due in August, I think is when we met. And while we thought we were in great shape, and we were.
Well, you had 2 hours this time, didn't you, or?
Oh, yeah. We got it in like at right at the deadline.
Oh, it was that close again.
Oh, yeah.
Very.
And we were waiting for the quote from the, not the quote, but kind of a scope of services and approximate cost from the consultant, and we got that at noon. And then
Stressful.
it was a bit stressful, and I realized, like, minutes after I sent it, not minutes, but like half hour or so, I started to read through it, that I left the whole section on community engagement off, which was like 20 points out of the 60. So Ashley's very, 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 very helpful, and she allowed us to
Oh, good.
resubmit that
Oh, good.
with it,
Yeah.
and they're accepting it as
Good.
info.
Whole.
So we will hear, like December 31st is when that'll be announced.
This is a perfect time if we get it. I think we have the best chance ever of getting a lot of community engagement because of the drought. And
Yeah,
So
yeah,
really,
yeah, yeah,
Totally.
right.
I think, can I just say how impressive it is, the work that went into that, Karen and Deirdre?
You all, I
Mary
mean,
Ann,
you know, I bagged and went to Europe.
That was the most stressful part. Where's Mary Ann?
I don't want to jump ahead, but I think we may want to sort of be talking a little bit about somehow try to do a plan B, even if we don't get the grant, to at least do some data gathering for the wells. I think that's something.
Oh,
to deal
yes,
with it.
that's a good idea.
But anyway, I don't, go ahead.
Right. So that is kind of where we were, or are. And I do have to give us a plug, a little bit of a plug here. Conservation Commission, Water Witches, Water Wise Program is having a program on Saturday, the 18th. And it's going to be talking about steps you can take to protect your shoreline from erosion. And Jamie Hark is going to be talking about alternate ways to think about shoring up the coastline. It's going to be, you know, that there's various safeguards that need, some need more and more DEP, okay, I'm helping.
Review or?
Yeah, you know, in the amount of regulation that you have to come under. And there's a lot of thinking from the state fact that you really need to start marrying not only hard, but with soft and natural landscaping to get the best overall experience. And funny, and then on November 6th, we were just a little quick. They're having the same program in Bath.
Oh, no.
And that's being put on from Maine DEP at the coastal program, and they're basically going to talk about practical
Oh,
options.
that's funny.
So it is funny, and however, I think,
Is that the one that we discussed?
yeah,
I haven't seen the poster.
Who's that, Beth?
November 6th in Bath. So anyhow, we can fold that into our program on the 18th to just let people know about that as well.
Mary Ann, just really fast. I have been in contact with Meg Rasmussen from MCOG about this project, and she asked for some potential sites in Harpswell, in especially municipal sites, and so I gave her a couple options, and I think she's gonna pick the Potts Point Dock. Wasn't what I would have picked, but I know. But anyways, that's what I think they're gonna pick. So we may be on the agenda for that night.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get to Jay later, and we can talk about the meeting we went to yesterday with Meg. Yeah. Yeah, so those are the announcements. And, sorry, I'm looking at the minutes. I'm looking at the minute, yes. I'm sorry for the late agenda, but it took me all day to put it together yesterday. Let's see here. So why don't we move on to committee updates? And Howie, do you have anything you'd like to update
Yeah.
us on?
Well, first of all, just let me say, I have to leave at 5:15, so.
Okay, so good that we're talking to you now.
The advice we've gotten from the consultant that we've been talking to about doing something, you know, on the town's own construction of solar is, don't even think about it right now, or only think about it right now. Just give it some thought. Don't take any action, because you have no idea what the incentives, the tariffs, you know, all that sort of stuff is gonna be like by the time you would even start doing it. However, he put me in touch with someone who said he could fix the problem we're having with the credits from the solar farm that we're signed up with. And we sent him a bunch of the electric bills, and he had a meeting with me and Terry and Christie and Brian, and told us about, you know, how he would rearrange the setup that we have, and brought to our attention that we're paying something like $3,000 a year in connection fees on meters that are using no energy.
Right.
So, he also, you know, we're gonna look into which of those could be shut down completely. And then he gave the same presentation to the Energy Committee a week later, and then last Thursday, he gave the same thing to the Select Board, who told Christie to go ahead and pursue what he's proposing, which is to take all of the credits that we're getting now that are getting put on different meters, and some are expiring, and some aren't getting used, and whatever, and put them all on this building. Now that all the heat pumps went in, it can consume all the credits. And that would mean we could sign up with a different solar farm for a bunch of the smaller accounts. Because we were signed up with one, and the way it works, it's complicated, but
Yeah.
if we sign up with a different solar farm, we can get a better arrangement on it. He also has proposed that we sign up for a long-term contract for the purchase of the energy, which would then be paid for with the credits, but to get it not from the standard offer, but he's said he's got better arrangements we can get. We can get a 4-year fixed price, so
Well,
this town is gonna pursue all of that.
sounds good. Sounds like the way to move forward at this time.
Yeah, because, you know, it doesn't make sense to try to do anything right now until all the chaos settles out. I'm trying to think, was there something else I wanted there? No, I think that's about it.
I was just watching it last night, really helpful. He mentioned that he gave the impression and said he can work with, is it Nautilus?
Yes,
Where you can get them to,
because the town's been trying to get this, there was one other thing, yes. The town's been trying to get this fixed, and CMP says it's the solar farm's problem, the solar farm says it's the CMP's problem, and nobody can figure out how to do it. And the problem is, when we first signed up, they took all the bills for the past 2 years, and they signed us up for all of it allocated proportionally. And then we got more efficient streetlights and put heat pumps in here, so everything they based it on is completely wrong, because those are the two biggest consumptions.
Right.
So, okay, the other thing that was interesting to learn is the credits that expired do not go into CMP's pocket. They go into a low-income heating assistance fund, so that made us feel better about the credits that we lost while all of this was going on. So,
Good. Sounds like the best path to take right now. Okay. Hi, Tim. You're welcome to jump up here.
My apologies. So, Howie, I'm just curious on this, it sounds like some of that stuff just like hidden, it wasn't possible to know? Or buried in the contract or fine print, or was it stuff that they made decisions on and didn't inform the town about?
I
was
don't
curious.
know. I don't know. I mean, the problem is that if you do this at your house, you have one meter, you have one bill, you get a bunch of credits, and they go, why you don't just get an account that has all the credits in it, and you can use it among the 13 meters the town has, and just say, use these up on these meters? I don't know. But you have to tell them ahead of time where it's all gonna go. And then when you try to change it, there's all this finger pointing. And you know, they say the other won't give them the information they need, and then say they can't give it to someone else, and on and on and on, and a lot of finger pointing. And we had a number of credits expire. I don't think it actually cost the town more than it would have had we not signed up, but we didn't get the savings that we were expecting. Basically, the savings that, the 15% discount, basically, large portion of that got eaten up by the expired credits. But it's not like there was a big loss for this. It was just, we pretty much paid what we would have paid if we'd stayed on the
Right.
original plan, and some of that went to a low-income assistance fund, so it's not a big deal, but it'd be nice to get it fixed. And as you pointed out, if we sign up with a different solar farm, we can get a different deal, which is better, and so on. So the unused meters, that was an interesting thing. There's like the guard post over at Mitchell Field has a meter on it, and there's a minimum charge of like $50 a month for every meter. And of the 5 meters, one of them used 240 kilowatt hours, which is, $60 worth of electricity over the last year. And, the other 4 weren't used at all. So we have to figure out if we can disconnect them. They're there for a reason, but if they're not getting used, so we have to look into that. And I think one of them is a separate meter that feeds one light that's either at the ball field or at the school parking lot. And why that can't just be connected to the street light wiring and become part of that and close down that meter at a savings of $600 a year. So we just have to track that down and see what it takes to do that.
Takes some due diligence. Great. Nancy, do you want to talk about the Resiliency Handbook a bit?
Sure. The 4 of us who've been working on the Resiliency Handbook have made huge strides. We met a couple weeks ago and have another meeting planned in a week or so. This is the one which we're basing upon Arausik's work. We've redrafted most of the content, and it's been multiply reviewed, and I think by the time, the next iteration, we'll be pretty happy with the text. And then we'll plop it into the template that they use for the way it looks, for the way it's presented, which is a
Booklet.
booklet, 8.5 by 11 folded in half. This, one of the things that, we still need to add some things to it. We need to write the dedication, we need to tighten up a couple things. But we have a bunch of beautiful pictures of Phippsburg and Rouseck County, and we're going to need help in replacing those with appropriate Harpswell pictures. And I think we're going to be talking about that at the next event, is how do we get non-professionally taken but resident-taken photographs included in this booklet so that it really is a Harpswell product. So Arausic has been nice enough to share everything that they have and allow us to use it, and we are doing that. And did I leave anything off?
No, it's been really fun. We're making it Harpswell specific, as
Mhm.
you said, but it got us going
Mhm.
away, using theirs as a place to start. 'Cause
We-
there's so many things you could do. Where do you
Yeah,
start?
and-
So it
and-
helped
and
us
we-
get started.
We had been spinning our wheels, and Peter Lieberworth, if you're listening, spinning the wheels was necessary, but I think we were headed in a really good path. And if this GoPIF grant gets funded, that will pay for the publication of it.
Right.
I think otherwise it'll just exist in soft copy to begin with, is that sort of the?
So we can get budget for it, right, yeah.
I was just gonna amend your comment and say when.
Yes, on December 31st, when we hear that GoPIF will fund that big, great project that shows how well the resiliency in this community is tied together and well thought out, then we'll be able to put it in hard copy, and all households will get a copy, and it'll be available to libraries in here and so on.
And I think we have to bring out what Jay brought out about the project yesterday, do you recall? No. How,
That was yesterday.
it was yesterday's meeting, how it became a project that became more community-oriented because you got HA involved. And they got very interested in the project because we were getting into the social vulnerability issues. And so they became a partner in a lot of the writing of it, which
And,
is,
and particularly with Jay and Gail on board, the process has really played in an empathetic way, and it's
Yeah.
quite pleasing. I think we'll be able to reach a lot of people.
With social work and nursing too.
Yes,
Yeah.
social workers and nurses, you know, it's not just scientists. Cold-hearted,
and then we're going
sterile.
to have, and then we're going to have our centerfold,
Yes.
which is going to be on the WaterWise program, which will get into water use in town and so forth. Okay. Jay, would you mind giving a report on our meeting yesterday?
Sure. Marion and I went to a meeting of this, I had to look this up for the name of it. Southern Mid-Coast Resilience Collaborative. It's a meeting that MCOG, Mid-Coast Council of Governments, organizes, and we've been to, I think this was our third, this maybe is the third. Mid-Coast area, Harpswell, Georgetown, Phippsburg, Bath seem to be the most active
In that,
in that
yeah.
particular cohort.
Mhm.
And this was specifically, had a speaker who was presenting on a program about energy coaching. It's York County, Climate to Thrive out of York County, an energy coaching program. And there's a very nice website, which we can put a link in to. So it was hearing about what they've done. They've set up a nonprofit. They've just hired an executive director. I asked about funding. They ask for donations. I don't think they've gotten grants.
No, they haven't.
And they don't have town support, which
They're looking for.
they're looking for, but was kind of shocking because we have great town support for a lot of the things we do, like on committees like this. So the group talked about, and the energy coaching is done by volunteers, and they are careful not to present themselves as energy experts, but people to navigate through the process, like efficiency main, window dressers were a couple things that were mentioned. They gave the statistics, and it sounded like typically they're suggesting an energy audit, but that doesn't mean everybody does an energy audit. They're expensive depending on your income. So it's like a health navigator, somebody to help you through the tricky labyrinth of what's available to help you be more energy efficient. So the group was talking about, do we want to try to do something regionally about setting up a system that's regional? There was a legislative bill that passed to set up a state system, a regional system, probably a pilot. It would probably start with a pilot. It wasn't funded, but it is in law, so if funding occurs, then it can happen. Whether it's a good idea or not is the discussion to be had. But the idea of coaching, I've talked often about how difficult I found it to get through Efficiency Maine's website and phone system and to find out what it is that they do. I mean, what we put in heat pumps, and the contractors know the paperwork to fill out, but to go to them and start from zero, that was appealing to me. But anyway, the next meeting is not until January, and I think the plan is to talk more about it. They were talking about asking our communities about it, and I said, what are we asking? And I'm still not sure, so hopefully they'll put out, do you want a regional energy coaching system? Do you think, I don't know, I'm not sure what the question is. There's a meeting coming up with multiple state offices to talk about this bill that passed, and the woman from York and some of the people at the meeting were, Bath was going to be attending, and they were going to be making the case that this should be funded, it's a priority, and see what happens.
I think one of the things that would have been helpful to know in the beginning, that there was a bill passed. Because I can only speak for myself, as she was presenting it as they set up this organization in town. They need to be paid for the work they're doing, and the town, they're looking for funding from the town for that. I found it much more meaningful to know that behind it was the state grant, not grant, but the state statute putting it into effect, and it could possibly be funded through the state in next year, which then could trickle down to the towns probably, or to at least the mid-coast, the areas that the regions.
Is this equivalent to what we were thinking about calling a sustainability cafe?
Yeah,
Yeah, except that it made me think about how, because with the home repair program, people apply if they qualify by age and income lower and older. A team of two goes in, not experts, but volunteers who talk about what it is they're looking for and will make further suggestions. So in that sense, it sounded very familiar. So I was thinking right away, how does intersect with this?
right.
Is you said that they've got a nonprofit that they formed to do this. Is that York Ready for Climate Action?
I think
Is
so.
that the organization?
I think
Okay.
so.
Yeah, yeah. And the woman who spoke with us, I think, was the force behind this. She had been on a town committee, and then this sounded like it evolved out of
Involved,
that.
yeah.
She said she was 78, but boy, this energy work must be good for you. So Howie will be forever young.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Can I just add one thing?
Sure.
Through the sustainability booklet that we're working on, I have learned recently that if you're going to have an energy audit done, the financial assistance runs out on December 31st.
Right.
And you can learn about it through the Efficiency Maine website, or email me and I'll direct you in the right direction.
And they said right now it's $150, and it's typically $500 for the audit. Does
Yeah,
that
I don't
sound
remember
right?
what the numbers are. But there is I guess state, or I don't remember whether it's state or federal financial assistance. I think state
Yeah.
runs out at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and somebody in the group was making the point that not everybody's going to or can do an energy audit. What are some other things people can do? And the specific they gave was window dressers, where you create the insert for your windows. And that's a nonprofit that, kind of like Habitat, people are encouraged to participate in making them,
Yeah.
but you don't have to.
Tony does, yes.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, Tony Barron.
It was interesting, too, because you realize that you're trying to reach two different economic levels. People who can take advantage of a lot of the facilities that are available may not need the same kind of help as somebody who can't afford to take advantage of it. And they were mentioning that this did start, and the idea was to reach more vulnerable and lower income households. So it was just kind of an interesting side piece.
Well, and she had her statistics all presented and said that's the one goal they haven't met.
Right.
They have not achieved being able to reach out to the lower income.
Right. So,
There's also state money available for all income levels for insulation. Again, through Efficiency Maine, yeah.
yeah. So,
That's interesting.
that's interesting. I think we'll move on to kind of the new business. The capital investment plan, which keeps coming up at every meeting, and we kind of just keep tossing it on to the next meeting. I think I'd like to discuss it a little more today, because we're going to have to get something in to Christie by next month. And I was able to talk with Christie and Terry to find out what she thinks the budget committee is looking for. And I believe what we have so far will go a long way. They want to have a sense of think of it as the same as we do with the fire department and have a capital improvement plan for that, where you figure out how much money to allocate each year towards the issues that are gonna have to be taken care of. So we have concentrated, for those who haven't been on the committee, we have concentrated on town infrastructure being town roads, those being the most vulnerable to sea level rise, of which there are 5 that are vulnerable to 1 to 2 feet. We have, through grants, been able to get engineering studies done, so they're pretty much shovel-ready. So when you're ready to do the project, you'd still have to do some engineering, but you have a really good sense of what you're gonna be looking for costs. Included with that are 2 town landings that we did the same type of thing on. So we have the listing, and Deirdre has worked on this for years, and Ken, and we already have the listing of those properties. We also have we have a sheet that we prioritized and what our criteria was. So we're pretty well set, I think, with supplying that to the town. What am I missing? And we probably might suggest, a lot of these projects are gonna be tied to capital road work. So that when you're doing a new project like Basin Cove Road a few years ago, you look at what it's gonna cost to make these improvements. Timeline-wise, where you are, does it make sense to include that as part of that project? Or push it off? If you have a fund there, I think you're probably more likely to push ahead with it than if you gotta double the project without any funding behind it. But we are able to provide that. And then it's a case and I guess the next thing we'll be able to do, and that's what I want to hear more. So we have that information now. What would you be looking for if you were to budget for these? What information would be helpful over and above what we have, if I'm making any sense?
I think the last time we discussed this, mostly because of the Dingley Island Bridge, which would be very expensive and perhaps not possible to do with any of the engineering solutions. So we started thinking about water as a way to, water and the town landings as ways for people to evacuate or get to them and so on. So I think in the last discussion, we viewed that as an alternative, which could be a creative alternative and kind of a step back to the 19th century, but might be appropriate to think about and could be a much lower cost alternative. We also talked, I think we talked about this, about using the sense of community in Harpswell, whereby neighbors would help neighbors and people could evacuate from at least temporarily evacuate from temporarily leave the places that might be caught up in a flood and go to a residence on the other side of that low spot. And that would be a low-cost thing. And I don't know how you build that into a budget discussion,
I think I can see that being built in.
but I don't want those 2 ideas to be lost in this, because engineers can't solve all problems in a reasonable way.
I mean, I think you build it in, and while emphasizing here, in these spots, this is a more practical solution. However, there are other spots in town, Garrison Cove, Landing maybe, where it is, funds are really gonna be needed. There's no sort of substitute for the ramp, and we also mentioned the ramp has possible uses for providing aid in certain situations.
Particularly since we now have the amphibious vessel, and I'm sure I'm using the wrong terms, but the Cundy's Harbor has a landing boat, I don't know if that's the right term.
Airboat?
No, I don't think it's an airboat. It was donated to the fire department.
Oh,
I don't know if it's a
Oh, well.
boat, but I don't know.
oh, maybe I don't know.
I think, I could be completely wrong about this, but in my mind, it's kind of like a World War II landing vessel. Does
I
anybody
haven't
know?
seen it in the
Still-
harbor.
Yeah.
so-
Yeah, it'd probably be fun to see.
It was given to the Cundy's Harbor Fire Department, I believe.
There was a boat
I
given,
think
but
it's,
I don't know what.
I don't think it's anything that fancy. I think it's just a fast boat that they used it last night, I think, to
Huh.
go, a boat ran aground after its engine died, and
Oh.
they went to go rescue it, but it's not, any more than just a fast boat, that they, as far as I know.
Okay,
But
I
I
thought it
mean,
was
all of these are
very
like
different.
emergency solutions.
Mhm.
We've already come up with a solution of having these barriers that could consistently be put up when there's a heavy rain. So why are we looking at emergency things when we have something we could
Well,
do
I-
to prevent?
I didn't think we did feel those were gonna work.
Well, the
I don't
problem,
think we
yeah,
did feel those were gonna work.
Yeah.
that becomes the issue of.
It's unclear. The issue is more getting them there and
But
the
this just says
person power to do it.
prioritize improvements. You know, what places are vulnerable, and we just have to allocate money for improvements, but we don't have to decide what those improvements are at this very time.
Well, I don't know that we're even going to be allocating the money. My sense is we're going to be allocating a plan, with my last conversation, because that's where there is always tension when a committee tries to tell the town how to spend the money. So if you have,
But you have to give viable solutions
Exactly.
to the problem.
and to your
And I'm
point,
not
Deirdre,
sure, relying on neighbors is a viable solution. It's desirable, but
right.
not for a town to plan.
But on the other hand, I think we're going to find if you, Howie?
I was just gonna say that the barriers thing looked like it was going to be something that would work in very limited circumstances, and a lot of the situations that we were looking at, they were unusable. Not even a matter of the manpower to put them up or where to store them. They just weren't designed, they're good for keeping a parking lot from flooding your building, they're not good for a road, for a couple of reasons. First of all, the roads aren't perfectly level, and second, you can end up, you can't get emergency vehicles through by the time you get them to where they would, you wouldn't have enough road left with what you have to set up. The fire department, I think, said no, they wouldn't be able to get through there. So I think they're not, they might work in a couple of limited situations, but they're certainly not a uniform solution to our problems.
So I'm thinking also, what about, we have a number of solutions. And we might be able to, on a place-by-place, prioritize where they would or would not work. You have places that will flood and stay flooded for a week, not too many, but there are some. And then you have those that'll flood for 3 hours.
I mean, it seems like we need a much more detailed plan by location of what would work in that location. Because in some locations, barriers may work, in some location, boats may work. We can't do a generic plan.
What were the engineering studies then? I guess that I don't
Yeah,
understand,
because-
like,
They all said use these barriers. The
Ah.
engineers at the time thought the barriers were a solution.
okay.
So basically, and it wasn't on all locations. Okay, so when they did the barriers at Lowell's Cove Road, they had new barriers, which were not inexpensive either. And then that's when we started talking to the emergency, Mike Drake and the fire department, and they had their concerns, which were valid concerns. I guess as we're sitting here, I think we can probably do more work on the barriers at some point, because that might be an option somewhere down the road when the flooding's lasting longer and you don't have money to fix 3 or 4 roads in, the same fiscal year. I don't know.
I mean, the ideal solution is to raise the roads, but we obviously don't have the money to do that as a community. So we
true.
also have to prioritize which of the roads we want to really raise, which are essential
Yeah, yeah.
to start putting the money towards fixing, and which we can leave for the future.
Are you
So are they looking for us to propose a dollar amount for this year that we'd like to set aside, or more like a 5-year plan?
They want a 5-year, they're looking for a
Five-year
plan.
plan.
They're looking for, similar to what they put together, I visualize, similar to what they put together for the fire department, Howard. In which you're not looking for dollars so much, but a plan of how you're going to proceed to take care of these.
I think that's really important. We need to have a subcommittee that works on that and comes up with a very detailed plan for each area.
Which will change as well.
That's
Yes.
right.
I want to respond to Sean's question. The engineers also, for each of the areas they investigated, came up with engineering plans which raised the road level different amounts. So there was that, and those were all hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars to be able to raise the roads. So that would be the highest, most expensive solution. Then as an alternative where maybe possible, they talked about these temporary flood barriers. And in my opinion, neither of those would work on the Dingley Island Road, just because of its nature.
Yeah, I
And,
guess,
and the only reason I talk about the Dingley Island Road is I live near it, so I walk up with the dog over it, so that's the one I'm most familiar with.
something that I remember being mentioned last time we talked about this was just hardening the road interface, basically, and like letting the road flood, because the emergency vehicles can drive through 2 feet of water or whatever. Like, I just want to
So it
keep
wouldn't
that in
destroy
the.
its structural integrity
Yeah,
and be
exactly.
flooded, but it would still be
So
structural.
I don't know, maybe the engineers looked at that, but like, the option of spending $1 million or buying something that might not work in most places seems like not great suggestion spectrum or whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
But we're not clear if things don't work yet in some places.
sure.
You know, maybe generically, I mean, in some areas they won't work, but there may be other areas in town where the flood barriers could work.
Well, I think that.
And that's why we need an individualized plan by
I agree.
location. I don't
I agree.
think we can have a generic solution.
Well,
I
I
agree.
think so too, and I think the engineering studies were very instructive. Like Abner Point, if they raised that road, it would be like that,
Yeah.
which was like not feasible. But then the barriers, the water's coming from both sides, so that's problematic. But I think we're a peninsular community with all sorts of interesting foibles. So having, there's not one solution.
No, there's
And
not.
that's pretty clear. And things like water, using water is, I think, quite creative. And it could speak to making sure that the landing spots are hardened, right? So that, I think, is part of the bigger picture. If you look at, what about those inaccessible areas? And what about the ones that don't flood for long right now? So I think it's all relevant.
But I think the other thing we need to think about is a long-term plan for the town to allocate that money for raising the roads. I mean, $1 million here, $2 million there. It's very expensive, but the town has to face that.
I would love to also just throw in an idea that was mentioned about like getting people to the other side of the flooding spot that continues to have road access or whatever. If we're going to spend $2 million, we can build really nice, durable shelters that people can go to and maintain them, and we can build resilience that way instead of spending several $1 million on roads that are going to be underwater in another 30 years after that or whatever. So,
Interesting point.
yeah, maybe think another cycle out instead of just, oh, we'll get 50 years out of this. It's like, I might still be here in 50 years. So, you know. Anyways, it's just like another thing that comes to mind as a possibility. I don't know. It's,
Dan, you look like you want to say something.
No, I was just following up on what Sean was saying, that the idea of having, building on that whole community involvement thing, we really are kind of behind a little bit in having emergency preparedness here. terms of what do we do, forget even about the flooding. What do we do if we have a bad storm and we lose power for 2 weeks? Where do people go? We don't have the cots, we don't have the blankets or any of that sort of stuff. So, that's what, in terms of short-term, how you deal with things on the short term, you have to be dealing with how are people going to survive for the first 72, 96 hours. And so I think that kind of needs to be a part of that. But that's kind of a broader thing. That goes well beyond infrastructure,
Right.
I think.
And some of that is addressed in this booklet that we've been talking about. What people can do to be prepared for 3 days without power.
Nice.
But that's not, that's individuals, that's not the community as a whole.
Right.
Ken?
Yeah, it sort of just came back to the original request, I think, is something for the Budget Advisory Committee, I think is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
And I think it's a bigger challenge than like the emergency vehicles, at least those you say, okay, these have lifespan of, I don't know what, 30 years, they cost roughly X amount. You can get a general dollar amount.
Right.
Is, I think our challenge here is, yes, we know there's a lot of money we need to be reserving for. Even looking at best options we talked about, but what number is that? And I think ultimately Budget Advisory is gonna ask for some number, aren't they? And how do we,
Well, we know,
Well, it's
we
so
know what the
many-
cost, I was just gonna say, we know the cost.
Yeah, we know the cost of
Of-
raising the roads that need to be raised.
Right.
And it's
Today.
serious amounts
Today.
of money.
Yeah.
And that's a few years ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, the costs have gone up since we actually did the engineering study.
but, yeah, of course, we're also counting on hopefully some grants, like this would, I think we'll talk about next. Do we wanna think about the money, not the full amount, but what's a doable amount with the argument that this could also be used, much like the Spira, for, matching grants?
That's a great thought.
Is
No,
that, so, I mean, I think we have to come up with some number that's, will pass the Budget Advisory Committee and town meeting, and yet that will be more than 50,000 for a year.
I mean,
It's
it
a lot.
does seem viable to find grants that will, we can prioritize the roads, we've already done that.
Right.
And then try to get money to pay for the cost of doing it, or partial cost.
I mean, ultimately, we need everything that's been mentioned here, from, land improvements to shelter to whatever, is just, how do we articulate that now into something for the,
It would seem, I don't know, as I'm listening to everybody, I'm thinking we maybe present it that way.
Right.
This is what we gotta think about. However, the piece we've been asked about is the financial piece.
and if it's too, I think if the worry is it's too vague. Yeah, it's my
Yeah.
concern, is I think we have to have something that the
We need
town can say, yes, that makes
much more detailed
sense.
information about each road and what the alternatives for each road, and some of them may not have good alternatives except to spend the money to improve it.
Yeah,
And
so
then we
especially
go for a big
heavily
grant.
traveled one,
Yes.
Basin Point maybe one.
Yeah.
that would-
That's an
And
example.
are we only talking about roads? 'Cause I don't
Roads
think
and
we are.
landings.
Develop a capital investment plan that IDs vulnerable facilities and assets, which includes roads, but not just roads.
Not just roads
The
and,
roads are such a large part of
But
the
it's not the
total.
only thing.
it's not the
No,
only
no, it
thing.
isn't, no.
So we also have landings and we also have other assets. Yeah?
Yeah, so as I'm listening to this, I'm also thinking that we are mixing a couple different issues, and purposely so, I mean, it's not, it's just, but one of the issues is, do we have crisis management, right? So it's like, okay, there's a flood, there's a this, there's a that, how do we respond? That is one issue related to climate change and the resilience of this community, right? There's another issue, there are other issues that are not emergency response issues, such as if there is continued sea level rise, and with the, changing tides, et cetera, that we can pretty much be sure that these different roads are going to be flooded for different periods of time. separate from a storm event. And they kind of take you down two see them as very different paths in terms of how the town wants to respond. And, I think we've conflated them. Our discussions, which is okay, but it's almost sounding to me like maybe we need to start to separate them and say, okay, these are different issues. They require different approaches. And for example, emergency response, when it comes to, what happens if we lose power for 2 weeks, right? It's a very different problem set to try to deal with, which I think we need to address.
Yeah.
As opposed to, we know these roads are gonna flood. So what is our response to that? Is it do nothing? At some points we say, if it's gonna cost $5 million to do this, we're not sure we're ever gonna get the $5 million. So then what is our
Alternative.
alternative? And then
We
maybe other
just
alternatives.
flooded roads.
Right, live with flooded roads, or decide that if the roads are gonna be flooded this time of year and you're living on the flooded part, either you're gonna have to buy a boat, or we're gonna, a place that's gonna allow you to wait, or something, right? But it's making me think that we need to maybe start making some more discrete buckets to keep the conversation focused on the specific issue that we're trying to address with these funds, as opposed to saying, that it's, I know that our response up until now is kind of all of this stuff, and we need some funds to operate, because we're still trying to figure out exactly what are the most important things we're gonna do.
I think to
But
your point, I think it's gonna be easier to make a case if you have more clearly defined buckets
Right.
for when you're
Yeah.
going to
Yes.
think that.
Well, which,
We're not supposed to be doing anything with the funds. We're just making a plan that all we have to do is identify vulnerable places and then say what the solutions could be and let the budget committee work on the money aspect, right?
that's my understanding.
They're just looking for a plan of what parcels we see as high priority and descending order
Right in there.
with solutions.
We already have that for, reconstruction of the roads.
Yeah.
We have the money, we have the costs, and we have the priorities already done.
Right, so we just need to make the plan.
So we need to do something to decide if we're going to go ahead to fund that, or if we're going to allow ourselves to have an emergency response every time there's a flood.
Well, I think that's not for us to decide, is what Mary Ann's saying, and that's for the town to decide.
Right.
All we're doing is advising them on what places are vulnerable, what potential solutions are, and what information we have on the cost.
Yeah, they wanted us to come up with, they're reaching for trying to figure out how much money to start budgeting for a pot of money.
Well,
And,
the engineering preliminary studies that have been done on the roads and on, I gather, some of the landings have given us what they view to be the most expensive of the solutions, which would be to build all the roads up, right? Oh, for the long-term changes as opposed
yeah,
to the
and
Build
intermediate.
them up, put
So-
in
so we know-
culverts, whatever's
Right,
needed in a
so we-
particular site.
So, and even some of those are out of date, but they can be updated and brought
they're
into
not that much out of date.
2025 numbers. So we know the maximum number.
Yes.
And then we can find creative ways to pair, creative solutions so that it would cost less. But in terms of planning for money over 10, 15, 20, 25 years, we know in 2020, or could know in 2025 dollars, what the engineers have predicted would be the most expensive methods. And then we could,
And
perhaps,
the
we don't
other
have to spend.
methods are all emergency-related methods, finding ways to get around the flooded roads. And at some point, you need to make a decision. This is too expensive to keep doing this on an emergency basis. This needs to be
A
dealt
permanent
with.
thing. But we know how much the permanent solutions would cost.
Not permanent solutions, just
Well,
to be,
Right,
Longer
no, you're
term,
right,
say it,
you're
I
right.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and we
Yeah.
usually get two estimates, one for 3 feet of sea level rise, and in some cases,
For one to two.
well, we never do 1 to 2, we just go to 3, because it doesn't make sense to spend $1 million when you spend for 1 to 2 feet, when you know you're gonna need another to do it again in 10 years. So we have, all I can say is,
No,
Are-
those that are 1 to 2, you do the work and then they're good for.
I guess what I'm saying, Deirdre,
long-term.
is the engineering design is consistent between all the 5 roads, and it's for up to 3 feet, and then in some cases, they also include up to 6 feet. So we have a baseline of the same thing on all the roads of 3 feet.
But
of
there's
cost.
some roads that are going to, you know, actually within 1 to 2 feet are going to be covered consistently
Right.
into the future.
All the
So those
ones-
are the more higher priority.
Those are the ones that we have the 6 on.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Uh,
Unfortunately, we are in the process of getting very accurate geographic analysis done with this mapping project that's been funded and is underway.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we did it. So it's sea level rise and storm surge and wave run-up and so on. So we're about to have some excellent data to fine-tune what we already have.
You know,
I think Tim's point is an excellent one, that the question that they're asking has components that maybe they're not thinking about. Because certainly we can give them our projections on what it would cost for these 5 major roads and all that over a longer period of time. I can see the moment one of these projects is proposed, what the reaction of the community is going to be. But the one thing that we can agree on is that on the shorter term, as we're dealing with these, as we're looking toward these longer term solutions, that's something that everybody ought to be able to agree on. And the dollar amount won't be as significant either.
yeah, and I think, believe it or not, there is a pretty robust engineering, emergency management plan in place in the town. It might not be as fancy, as complete as we want it. I see everybody, but,
Why don't we know about it?
well, maybe that's the
isn't
issue.
it isn't
Maybe that's the issue. We
We
don't know
don't
about.
have one yet, you know, that's consistent for each location that has potential for emergency.
You're talking about overall emergency, right?
Yeah.
For
Overall
like a
emergency management
2-day,
plan for the
2-week
town.
power outage
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah,
And this is something I think that we would do better to be more in talking with the fire and rescue department, the whole emergency management system, with Mike Drake. If we are thinking about talking about that, you know, I don't quite see that as our issue today, because they're asking for costs to figure on what they will need to do to raise the roads.
okay, well then,
Well, we have
like
that.
Tim was saying, we make it clear that there are multiple issues
Yeah.
involved here, but this is the one we've been asked to address, and so here's what we have that we can give you right now.
Yeah, and we could always add to that some of the other things we've talked about for consideration, however we're dealing with this one subject, Howie.
You started to say something about planning for 3-foot sea level rise. Were there two, you said there were two. Was there a 3-foot and a 4 or 5 foot?
1 to 2 and 3 to 4.
Deirdre, let's go back to what we've got.
3 foot and 6
No,
foot.
that's
Yeah,
what he
3
was
foot and 6
asking.
foot, right. But the point is that if, the 1 to 2 issue is the more urgent roads, because they'll be affected by that. But you don't
Yeah.
just fix them for 1 to 2, you go to 3 feet minimum if you're gonna spend the money.
Exactly.
I think that was what Marianne started to
That's
say.
the point I
and
was
then
trying
got-
to make,
got-
yeah,
I think that's what Deirdre was trying to make, too.
yeah.
Which of course is what led us to the temporary barriers, because we said if it's gonna be $5 million or $4 million to go to the things there, is there another possible solution that might, which took us down that whole other path?
Right.
Well, the
Is there a
engineer's
less
project.
expensive, other alternative, and yes, there are these temporary barriers that are starting to pop up all over the place, because lo and behold, other towns have the same problem we do, which is the big engineering fix has a price tag that we can't swallow. So then that led us even further down the path, which is, well, if those don't work, what are our other options? Well, then we've got a bunch of people living in a town, and how do we band together and figure out how to march on in the absence of those things, right? And there are other things that we can do
And-
while we're debating these engineering solutions.
And I think we're going around in a circle because those are all part of what we talk about and what we're trying to figure out. What I don't understand is, are they asking only about roads?
Yeah.
Because that's not what this says.
No.
Like,
I pulled
For
that,
example, if we're using, if we have a cooling center or a warming center, and that's vulnerable, is that a consideration
that
here?
didn't come up, to
But
tell you
could
the
it?
truth. It could, yeah, it could.
I mean, that could be an asterisk too.
I mean, an asterisk could be the new fire station. If they wanted to build a warming center into there, it would take extra funds.
Yeah.
That would come under this. It's just that when we started doing this, that wasn't in the conversation.
Well, but is the budget committee looking for, did they say, I want to know what you think we should do about roads? Or did they say, I want to know what you think we should do about hardening in general? Because it's bigger, to me, roads are important, but it's not the only thing.
Well, they're the cause of the problem that then leads to the need for the,
I guess, I know what you're saying, and it's a really good question, because I can't quite remember how they asked me, because we keep talking about roads. Not to say, and then I pulled out our sustainability plan to pick out what we put in our plan. And it's very general. It talks about town infrastructure, basically. So that would include what you're talking about.
Well, and even if the ask is specific to roads, I think it's an opportunity to bring up the other stuff
I think you're right.
as and be aware, or asterisk one, asterisk two, because it's bigger. I mean, we're not just talking about roads in this committee, and they're looking to us for input.
I think,
I think.
what about saying something like, we have hard numbers for these roads. However, and for these two landings. However, we realize there's other areas in town that are going to be affected, such as warming centers and what these other issues are, which are going to need investigation. But at this point, we know that these 5 roads are gonna cost us $15 million. And they're gonna probably all need it around the same time.
yep.
I mean, that's all we can tell them.
We have the
That's all.
high number,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to just in my mind think of how much each one comes in at.
Would it be helpful to either possibly invite one or more members from Budget Advisory to our next meeting, or one or two members from here go to Budget Advisory? Some of these are easier to maybe articulate in person.
I suggested that, but the answer I got was they don't know. That's why that's what,
Yeah, okay, is that what, next month?
next month. No, I talked to Christie, I said, maybe we should meet with them.
Yeah.
And she says, and then administration talked, and they said, no, they basically don't know. And they're looking to us for some ideas of what the costs are going to be.
But would it still be possible for this group or a subgroup of this to look at the analysis that's been done on the cost of roads and make sure we're comfortable with the priorities, and also add some information about
Oh, yeah.
what else could be done on those roads that's short of the engineering intervention, the raising of the roads? You know, in other words, what's done at Bethel Point may be different, you know, how that can be dealt with in a crisis may be different than other parts of town, and cost other amounts of money.
The emergency bucket versus the resiliency.
Yeah, I feel like we need more information about the emergency stuff, as well as the cost of the roads.
And my sense is we haven't, I don't
No.
we put together something that's a synopsis
No.
of what we have learned, nice summary format for someone to say, oh, I didn't realize you had done all that work. Okay, this is helpful for me to understand what our issues are. So I sort of feel like it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
on us to produce something.
Yeah.
And also, the other thing we haven't discussed, which is something that will be discussed as this whole situation goes forward over the years, is retreat.
Is retreat?
Retreat. Some places, you will not, you're
That's what
going
I've been trying to
retreat.
gesture at, for sure.
I mean, and
Retreat in
that-
one, some
And
form or
that's what I've
another.
been thinking about, like, in this capital investment plan, do you also include land acquisition? Like, is that part of, can you build that into a resiliency budget?
Like buy it so people can leave and go
Or
someplace.
You mean
Reroute
make
the road.
people leave,
For what?
You reroute a road,
Oh,
Yeah,
you know?
but in
Maybe,
some
yeah.
cases, that's not feasible.
Well,
Dingley
no, not in
Island,
every case,
Bethel
but
Point.
in some cases, it might be feasible.
that's
Yeah, in
true.
some places, but in, like, I think Dingley Island, Bethel Point, I don't think you can reroute.
But
So
that's
those
the
people
point.
just get left.
I think that's the point, that it's, there's no one solution, so to have a.
Yeah. We
I
need the
hadn't thought
details
about
by place road.
So,
It's like,
I mean, what this says to me is we should give them the numbers that we have on the road engineering plans. Tell them that we know that they're high, that there need to be alternatives. And that we're not at that point yet, right? That we have these numbers, that we can give them, it's the Budget Advisory Committee. We can tell them what the engineering studies gave for the price for doing this. And we are now looking at other things, but I don't think we need to give them much more than we are considering other possibilities, because the number came in that high, they want a number, we can give them that number.
Give them a number, they can start working towards it.
Yeah.
They can
That
start
works
working toward
easy.
that, and let them know that we're considering other possibilities, and other things that aren't just alternatives, but other, other, other approaches that might.
Other
figure into
resilience
this.
approaches.
I'm sorry?
Other resilience approaches.
And
Right,
so,
but I mean, when those engineering studies were done, there was no talk of this new building here.
That's right.
So that's something that, that should be figured into that, but we're not at that point yet. I think we just tell them that we're looking at other possibilities. Here are the numbers we have on the roads, and, if they come back and say, well, there's no way we're ever gonna raise that kind of money, then we have to go back and look at alternatives. But right now, we have that
That's the
information.
answer.
And, that I don't think that we have to go and study this to a much higher degree to give them the answer that they're asking for. Then we can get feedback from them. If they say, you gotta come up with something else, then we do that. We can tell them now that we're looking at other things.
Yeah,
So are you saying, for example, the raising roads and the engineers came and talked about the barriers? So the price is high, so the engineers came to us with something else that won't necessarily work, but there are other things to look at.
Well, but also that in addition to the roads, which we have a lot more, concrete information on, that, we're looking at other alternatives to deal with the situation of, more severe climate issues. Sea level rise, bigger storms, et cetera, but we're not ready to give them, detailed information on that. And, that can come next year or the year after as we continue to look at it. I don't think we need to solve that right now.
yeah. And the other thing too is on some of them, not a lot of them, but some of the earlier studies gave a scale of how much flooding are you willing to accept before you.
Nuisance flooding as opposed to permanent
Nuisance
flooding, which is
to
what
permanent,
Tim was
mhm.
essentially referring to.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to point out, I feel like our issue is not flooding so much as wave action.
It's wave action, that's the
So
difference.
we can talk about flooding, but like you were saying with the barriers, those barriers aren't meant for wave action. They're meant for gentle flooding. So what damages the road and damages the infrastructure a lot of times is the wave action, more than just the flooding.
And many of our places don't stay flooded.
hence this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but that also
So
is
you should-
limited by and, those solutions don't always work.
Is that what the engineers looked at? Wave action? They looked
Well,
at storm surge?
I'm just thinking about like Lowell's Cove, when that was damaged in the 2024 storms. It wasn't so much the flooding, it was like all of
It's-
the,
it's-
all of the
Oh,
waves
I-
that were undermining the road, and then they kicked up all the pavement, and.
No, you're
Yeah.
right. I just wonder, does our data reflect that? The studies that were done?
The
I don't
studies
know.
that were done,
No.
no, because that's the reason we,
So that's something to add, so we,
well,
I feel like the engineering solution would have built something that can withstand wave action as well as flooding.
oh, yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
definitely.
I think the bigger issue is that it is wave action and it doesn't stay flooded for a long period of time. I mean, I think that to me is the bigger issue. So you can't get out of your house for 6 hours.
And that's the nuisance flooding.
Yeah,
But then there's the long-term issue of sea level rise, where some roads will be chronically flooded if we don't do something.
now, we don't know that yet with the numbers that we have. We will learn, we got our roads based on modeling done on history.
So they're underestimated, if
Yes.
anything.
No, some are
probably.
overestimated.
Under, well,
So,
okay.
so what you got is, my understanding anyhow, and what we are getting the new
That's why
study
we're getting
done,
this whole new study.
is there's some areas that depending on how many islands are outside of the cove, that affect wave action. The wave action will affect how much flooding and overtopping you get. The modeling that we're doing now doesn't reflect that. It's figured on a flat surface. If that, help me, Margaret.
Say it again?
So basically, right now, our models that we used to pick the roads that are gonna be vulnerable,
There's still water, is that what you're,
yeah,
water model?
yeah, kinda. It's more like flooding in still water,
It's the amount of water that'll always be there in the future.
always be there is
Is the issue. It isn't just storms.
right. Now,
It's going to raise, the water's going to come up in those areas 1 to 2 feet
correct,
in a relatively short period of time, and it's can consistently be 1 to 2 feet higher
right.
at high tide.
And that's what I meant, is that concept is different
Mhm.
than storm action, and energy, and
Yes.
erosion that occurs during storms.
Right.
And what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, we don't know until we get this study done.
But we do know what they told us about what will happen when the water consistently comes up 1 or 2 feet on some of those
Right.
roads.
It seems like we need to suggest a number for
Yeah.
the budget group
I think,
to,
yeah.
to work towards, and we have a high estimate
Mm-hmm.
for raising all of the roads by the amount suggested or whatever. Let's give them that number or whatever,
Give them the
right?
number, and we
They
can,
can prune it down,
Yeah.
and then we can list all the other things it could be
Yep.
used for in addition to just raising the road. I think
Yes.
that's
Yeah, those are-
all we can do.
that's, I'm gonna suggest, I'll put something together and send it around.
Yes.
And if you could play with it a little bit. And Tim, you always come up with these really nice, overall.
All right, I have to leave.
Yeah, thanks, Howard.
your arm looks good, Howie. He's been using it.
Oh, he has, yeah. Okay. That was harder than
Well,
I
we
expected.
solved that one.
Yeah,
Right.
Then we sort of kick
So-
it down the road a little.
well, I think the number
Let's
is,
tackle world peace next.
I think it's $14,675,392.27.
Right.
Divide it over 20 years, and there's your number.
Big, that's
Yeah,
all you need.
yeah.
But actually, I think now is a really good time to put out the high-end numbers. We don't
Oh,
need
yes.
to- we
Definitely.
say, These are the realities of the information that we got back.
Exactly.
These are how we responded. These are the things that make this budget question challenging, but why we want a fund that allows us to go after grants to keep us, on the edge and looking for new ideas. Well, as we go looking for new ideas, lo and behold comes the temporary structure, right? So we change that. Lo and behold, there's another grant that allows us to investigate whether we should improve our, emergency response, right? So I think it's an important opportunity to not shy away from the numbers that we have, but also say, these are the things that when we saw them drove us to do other things. Which then is a chance to educate, what does this committee do? Right? What do those guys do?
Yeah, and it's a good chance to talk about, we've been talking about each of these roads individually and throwing numbers out individually. But I think it's a really good opportunity to pull it all together and come up with the number that we have. And that should give the town a little better idea of what they have to plan for, actually. You need to know that high number, I would think.
One
And
of-
it's probably underestimated by now, because
Oh, it
that
is.
study
Oh,
was.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so if anything, it's
And it's
Too low.
underestimated for all of these kinds of reasons too, because
Yeah.
it's only addressing one issue.
it's underestimated,
Yeah.
but
It's important, but.
it's a beginning.
The other thing to remember is that our former board liaison, Jane Covey, suggested thinking about bonds to pay for it.
Yeah.
But that's where we don't get into.
I know we don't
That's
get
what we're
involved
not
in it,
gonna
but
get
it's
into
not,
that.
it's not like the town needs to write a check for $3 million next month. It's
Right,
that
right.
there are ways to finance these
So
things.
basically, we're gonna tell them the amount. They're gonna figure out how they're gonna fund
Figure
it.
out what to do.
And if you've ever been to town meeting, when they talk about having a fund rather than bonding, that can be an hour of discussion.
But I think it's also an opportunity for us to say, this is not a unique problem. All,
Yep.
pretty much all towns and communities, all up and down the east coast of the US, not to talk about the world, but the east coast of the US is already experiencing this flooding. You hear it on the news, you know it's happening in Maine, right? It's like,
Yeah.
this is not just a hypothetical issue, and everyone is trying to figure out what to do about it. And there's everything from a super high cost engineering solution to run away. Just run away and let nature take its course.
Moving
And,
land.
And then there's all this other stuff we're talking about in between. But the gradient is between do nothing and these really strong engineering
Ocean
solutions.
from
And we've
property
been trying to,
Bangor.
Right.
Find where.
Good.
Maybe at our next
Al, you
meeting,
were
we
supposed
should.
to leave a couple minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yes, I know.
I thought I saw you leave.
I'm not going anywhere until I find my car key, which
Oh, my
Oh,
gosh.
no.
here. And not
helps.
like in the other part of the building when I dropped off my ballot, which appears to be what the case is probably. Is that door alarmed?
Yeah, it is now.
I was gonna say, this isn't the meeting you were supposed to go to.
That's right, it's not.
Your
But-
purse not in your pockets?
I'm sure.
Okay. We're just gonna unarm it for him. Oh, you're good, Margaret. Okay, let's move on here. Oh, the next thing I want to bring up is we're talking about it a little bit at the beginning of the meeting, the Maine Public Working Waterfront Infrastructure Fund that is going to, that was 2 million, fund
2 million?
up to $2 million, and it includes in construction, which is really unusual, and it's coming through Maine DOT. For those of you who were not on the committee, we applied for a very similar grant for, well, just to go back. On Garrison Cove Road and Lookout Point Road, those are two town landings that we had done engineering analysis on. Both well, I know the Garrison Cove landing was in need of repair anyhow.
The lookout is equally as.
Yeah, and I'm not sure about Lookout, yeah. So we had engineering designs of the cost to repair that and also make it more climate resilient. In the case of Garrison Cove Road, it included soft erosion control methods,
Basically, it'd be to the east of the landing, mainly,
yeah.
along with Wentworth Lane.
Yeah, on Wentworth Lane. There's not much room there if you're not familiar with it, but it consisted of planting core grass, seedlings, and so forth to absorb the wave energy when it comes in. I should have, and I don't remember, but I didn't bring it with me. But we could resubmit that. I did want to mention a couple things there. We did this kind of on our own the last time. We have a little time to think about this now. There are some properties along Wentworth, one of them which belongs to Rob Williams, who's the realtor down there. Never talked to him the last time about this project at all, and I thought that would be a good opportunity to get some feedback from him. He was on his way up to camp this week, but we're going to talk when he gets back. One of the things he brought up immediately was the wetland there that does get flooded.
It's way up behind the house closest to the landing.
Yeah, and a lot of that water comes from a culvert, a state culvert that comes under Route 24.
Didn't know
Which
that.
he brought up immediately. But anyhow, I think it's a good opportunity to talk to him, because he's got some property right on Wentworth that got flooded so badly that right now he can't use it anymore. Which, you always get a few more ideas. Margaret likes the spot a lot because her family uses that a little pocket beach.
Yeah, we use it all the time. But also, I have a lot of thoughts on this, obviously, but, I think that the harbor master's already identified it as a site that really needs some improvement.
Right, okay.
But I think that this is my first kind of grant I feel like I've been at from the ground up. So I feel like the proper way, especially since it's supposed to be working waterfront, I feel like the proper way to go about it would be for Harbor and Waterfront, or Paul informed by his committees, and then town lands to both recommend a location, and then the Resiliency Committee be able to move forward with working on solutions. But I don't think that, obviously I would pick Garrison Cove, but I feel like it needs to be informed by both you guys and your priority list and the Working Waterfront Committee.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, so my thought would be like, have them decide this month, talk about it at their meetings. I know, Ken, you're already gonna talk about it at your meeting, I assume?
We haven't met since
Yeah.
then, so yeah,
Right.
it would be our next meeting.
And then they can come back next month, and then we could
Go from there.
reach out, because we would meet the first week of November, and then we could work with a consultant to come up with a proposal.
Yeah.
Sounds simple.
No, I think that's a good plan.
And I think the select board also would be behind Garrison
Yeah,
from past discussions.
It's not because Kevin keeps 2 of his boats down there, is it?
who?
But isn't,
Kevin.
Yeah.
isn't Garrison Cove where Paul would put boats in and out?
He does, I've
yeah, he
seen him.
does.
Since his office is down there?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So,
And it's also close, I think a lot of times they keep the airboat at Bailey Island.
yeah, so they put it in.
So that's
So
in there.
I'm glad you brought that up that way, Margaret, because I think that's a much better way to attach this, attack this project, to even present it to the state. So I'm also going to be meeting, I'm on the agenda tomorrow for the Fisheries Committee to talk about some of the other grant opportunities that are available for fisheries-type things, to get a sense from them, for them to start thinking about, there is money out there if they have projects that they would like, that would fit into the categories. But we can also bring this up tomorrow. Billy, from Harbor and Waterfront, Billy Saxon, hasn't been here all summer because of just the busyness of the summer. So he doesn't even know that we're talking about this at this point.
So at our next meeting, we would identify or kind of agree on a location, and then work on how to hire a consultant.
Billy's on the fisheries committee.
Right. He's also on Harbor and Waterfront. Yeah, and I don't know how much of a consultant we have to hire because we have engineering design on that already.
Yeah.
That was our first GoPIF grant, but it probably needs some, it might need some fleshing out,
Yeah, the flood maps have changed since then at least.
yeah. But, yeah, we'll go from there.
Mhm.
But we do have time. It's going to be due the middle of January, I believe.
No, the grant isn't available there's like 6 weeks starting at the end of January.
Right,
But I think we'd have to plan ahead.
I hope so. Okay. So that's a good, yeah, when do you meet, Ken? You meet the second,
We're on the 20th this month.
20th,
This is the third Monday.
yeah. So it'll be a good chance for you to talk about that, and you might have some other ideas, I don't know. Something that's really kind of interesting, you know, is this enough money that you might think about
Both.
buying property to make that more resilient? I don't know. Property's not that cheap.
And how well would that pass their review process would be the other question. Versus saying, we're putting in a working waterfront ramp and making the surrounding land more resilient, that's a little more, might be a little more compelling argument than the property behind it.
That's true,
Well,
yeah.
as far as the-
Unless you can do something to build out the working waterfront and make it part of, because this is a working waterfront.
I mean, it'd be great because it could require, because you could potentially give you parking turnaround and so.
Well,
there's
right.
Yeah, it's all about the parking, yeah.
Yeah,
But that, I don't.
I don't
that
know.
Might come down to exactly what their criteria is gonna be.
yeah.
Right.
And it would depend on how you were funding it, that piece of it. But we have some time to really, I think, probably concentrate and really get a good project together on this.
I hope so. It would only give us like 2 months, two and
Oh,
a half months.
That's a
between-
lot of time.
Well, we've got so much, I think, so much already done.
Yeah.
That's
makes
true.
It helps.
Yeah. And then the other question is, do you want to consider more than one? Because you could put Lookout Point in as well, again,
The problem is the state's funding is only $17 million.
The whole pot.
The whole pot,
to
right.
pick from is only 17 million, which
That's
is
a
really
good
not gonna
point.
go that far.
so you don't want to make our chances the best, so we should pick the most urgent.
Important, yeah.
Can you apply for more than one?
I think so, we did the last time. I mean, I, put it this way, we were able to the last time, and I'm not sure this time.
I'm not sure. We don't want to be picky either.
No.
Yes, we do.
But I feel that Garrison seems to be more critical right now.
More, as I understand it somewhat, Lookout's evolved to be a little bit more recreation.
Yeah,
It's not only necessarily the ramp, just using the property, so I think I have
Yeah.
a strong argument with
right.
Garrison for.
Well, Garrison just needs the upgrades either
And
way.
it needs
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Plus, so many areas use it. I mean, I'm just amazed when you go down there, you've got all size boats going in and out, being pulled in and out of there. You've got a husband and wife in their dinghy going out to their little boat lobstering, you know.
And you got a couple trailers parked on the land.
Yeah.
and everything.
And then you've got the big truck down there pulling all of Bowden's docks down there. So it's just so widely used. Okay, so we will move in that direction. That sounds good, Margaret. I listed all these other grants that are coming out,
That's great.
which,
So when's due on the 31st? That's coming up soon.
yeah, so Casco Estuary Partners just,
This is pre-application, what exactly do they want?
you basically have to put in an application, and they'll either tell you to expand on it.
You sort of say, what is this, like a few paragraphs of your
Yeah.
thoughts, and they say, yeah, we'll consider it, or?
Do an
And there's,
RFP.
There's three parts to it. One is to develop a community action plan, conduct vulnerability sets, and community-driven plans. We've pretty much done that as a community. Then there's design stream smart culverts for fish passage. And then the other part is upgrade monitoring equipment and program for monitoring. It's more design, I think, for the land trust. So, but at any rate, the full application due is December 5th, and I'm not sure if we have anything for this, but I figured I should bring it up. And Stream Smart, anyhow. And then the last one, or two.
The broad reach.
Broadreach, which has been around for a while. Deirdre found this one. And we were thinking of using it for, I forget what we were thinking of this one for.
Maybe they'll still.
It's basically capacity building, it's a planning grant. And I think originally you had thought about it for the barriers, hadn't you, Deirdre?
I think so, yeah.
Well, I thought the barrier one was sort of, almost had an open, no firm deadline, and when it sort of
I think that was
Or
this one.
rolling.
No,
rolling,
there was
your
another
application.
one.
There was another one.
Yeah, there was, that one is,
Oh, yeah. So, okay.
and then this last one, Climate Resiliency Conservation Fund.
Oh, this one. That's up to $250,000. Oh, that's between Maine Coast Heritage Trust and the GoPIF organization. And it's mostly to support land protection projects.
Doesn't sound like the town.
Is that
No, it's,
protection against development or protection against nature?
because the Maine Coast Heritage Trust is part of this, my sense it's got more to do with,
Development?
yeah,
Like land acquisition.
acquisition, yeah.
Is- I don't know where we are on the Baxter State Park
I was just going to bring that up. too.
parcel here in Harpswell that the state is trying to turn over.
I know it's on the radar for HHLT.
Yeah,
It's-
Okay,
They're following it pretty closely,
okay. And I'm wondering if that fund could be used to help
possibly, yeah.
add to the stewardship fund to
Yeah,
spin out
yeah.
money for.
But evidently, that's going to be, from what I gathered from talking to Emma Bell, is that that's going to be a very long process.
Okay. But we might end up
so not our
needing to
kind
write a
of
letter of
project
support
for
if
the
I
they
don't think so,
apply for that grant.
unless
Trust.
they're looking to buy some land for landings.
Yeah.
You see how that goes.
That might be something as a possibility. I think the town was having some discussions on Potts Point about that.
Okay, that's right, I did hear something about that, or you mentioned it.
I haven't heard an update recently. I'm glad you mentioned. I'll check that.
So that might be a possibility for the use of,
When is it due?
this
it
is, which one was this?
Was this a climate
This
facility
one.
conservation?
Yeah, this
It's
was Maine Coast,
conservation,
yeah.
Land protection.
It's due, oh, we got plenty of time. It's due the 22nd.
Of October?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Okay.
Slam dunk.
yeah. It only came out a week ago.
No.
That sounds typical.
And is that a full-blown proposal, or is that a letter saying where we would be writing?
Sounds like it's a full-blown application to me.
They didn't want to review many applications.
I don't think so.
I mean, I think a lot of it, it's hard, it's probably, it's a lot dependent on the timeline of the sellers. It's the challenge.
So, I mean, the town could be looking for some type of land acquisition grants
It could be, if
for
things-
some of these issues that the town lands has been looking at.
And I have no idea dollars, what we're talking about. This is extremely small lot, but it would have some value, but there, I think there is active discussion, last I've heard from Katie.
Yeah, I heard about that too, yeah. So. Okay, is there anything else that you, I wanted to bring something up for Sean, but I can't remember what it was in one of these grants.
Let me know when you remember, yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe this was, wait, I forgot about this one.
Brother.
The monthly newsletter from, excuse me just a moment, I'll just scrunch through here. Housing, there we go. Now, this is just talking about a housing certification program. I'm talking about housing-friendly standards, and that there's pilot projects going on in various parts of the state. It's through the senior policy strategist Alexis Mann at midcoast.com, which is MCOG?
It would be, it would say, I think.
Well, it's aman at midcoast.com. Midcoast cog, yeah, so it's Maine,
Midcoast Maine Council of Government or something like
yes,
that?
yes, located in Lincoln. Where are they located?
MCOG?
Yeah, MCOG.
Damascata?
Demarcata.
I don't know that person.
Well,
I guess I don't need to.
I guess you don't need to. But if you're interested in more information on this, Sean, I can send it to you.
Please do, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And did you have anything from the Housing Committee you wanted to bring to us?
No, I don't think there was anything that,
Maybe at the next meeting.
yeah.
All right. We'll look forward to a big announcement.
We're going to look for a
Probably
big
not that.
announcement.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Does anybody else have anything else they'd like to bring into this meeting today? If not,
Covered a lot.
Just what the date of the next meeting?
yes,
November 4th.
Which is
November
election
4th.
day.
It'll be day after,
November
it will be
4th.
Election Day.
It is election day.
It is.
Wow.
We don't normally let those things bother us.
Oh, okay.
Flow.
If nobody minds, we will meet on that day.
I have no problem with it.
Yeah.
Is the school open on the 4th? Do you know?
I don't know.
Do you know if the school's open on the 4th?
I don't know.
Probably they are. Well, this is a
I think they
small
have been in the.
Yeah, they usually just have it anyhow.
They probably don't get to use gym, sort of a bummer day for them.
Yeah, I think there have been issues. I feel like it's been a discussion to close on Election Day, because there's issues with the public accessing the property, but I
Right.
don't know.
And the security,
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know what the issue, I don't know what the solution
I
is.
think for presidential, they closed, but
Yeah.
the others, they talked about.
Okay, well then, I think we will adjourn.